Persona is a unique series. Each entry is largely disconnected from one another, and each game tends to look and feel very different from one another as well. But is there any one title that stands above the others? Or is the question a bit more complicated than that? Well, let's get right into it, shall we? On the chopping block today are three, count them, three, not one, not two, certainly not four, but three Persona games. Persona 3, and I'll largely be talking about Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal. Each of these games feel like Persona games and operate under a similar set of mechanics, but when you go a little bit beneath the surface, each game is wildly different to one another, both in tone, characters, story, and atmosphere, and gameplay. And honestly, what you will judge to be the best Persona game will largely come down to what you are looking for out of these games, and which one impacts you the most. That's just kind of the nature of games at the end of the day. What I find relatable and impactful may not be the same for you, and what you find relatable and impactful may not hold the same weight for myself. It's one of those beautiful aspects of video games as a whole, that we have so much variety out there that we can generally find something that resonates with us, and I feel that Persona as a whole is an excellent microcosm of this phenomenon. Persona 3 is a game that can be viewed as dated mechanically in comparison to Golden or Royal, and while I haven't finished it myself, I have watched a few playthroughs of Fez, and I'm currently playing through both Fez and Portable myself. So while my opinions and thoughts on the game as a whole aren't final and still subject to change, my impressions so far are still very positive, and while it has certain mechanics and decisions that could be seen as unnecessarily complicated or feature bloat, like party members becoming tired, or 3 types of physical attacks, or having to actually monitor when you take a fed dookie to monitor your personal health status in the game. I kind of find Persona 3 charming because of them. It feels like I'm trying to manage many spinning plates, being careful not to become over-reliant on any one, and to properly manage various different mechanics the game throws at me so those plates that I'm spinning and managing don't just fall down and crumble. It feels hectic, and I have to properly time manage myself and think long-term as to what I want to accomplish in the game. And that's kind of the thing that I love about Persona's social simulator aspects. Planning what social links I want to prioritize, after being thrown a ton of them at the start of the game, on top of managing my resources, Elizabeth requests, money, personas, etc. It's a lot, to be sure, but it never strays into what I would consider to be too much, and stays solely within the "it's fun" category. The tone of Persona 3 is also very unique compared to 4 and 5, dealing way more with macabre topics, like death and loss, than 4 and 5's more introspective or political messaging. Some people will just generally prefer darker stories like P3, and that's completely fine. While I'd argue P4 and P5 can get as dark as P3, P3 is just way more consistently dark and depressing with its subject matter, and that has an appeal all of its own. Persona 4 Golden could, and rightfully so, be viewed as the lightest in tone compared to the other two, but like I said, Persona 4 can get dark. But generally, it is far more cheery and leaning more on the comedy and small-town vibes compared to the other games. But to me, and I talked about this a few days ago, what Persona 4 Golden excels at is the main murder mystery, and more importantly, and impressively in my opinion, the characters. Now, all 3 of these games have phenomenal cast of characters, but to me, the formula of character development in Persona 4 is especially poignant and effective. Like the others, you start off with a smaller cast, and over the course of the game, new main party members and social links are brought into the fold. But for P4, they will tackle the main emotional underlying issues that each of these characters face within the confines of the main story. When they are first introduced, they will then get some resolution to that in the dungeon as they accept their inner selves. Then they'll be brought into the main party as a new character, will generally be introduced, and the cycle moves on. The wheel keeps spinning. Then the rest of the game for the character you just added to your party is spent on fleshing out their dynamics with the rest of the party through various story events and comedy moments, while continuing to flesh out their character through the social link, to show us the result of all the development that they just got in the main story in the TV world. It's a cyclical nature where we are introduced to a character, get emotional resolution, bring them in as a permanent party member, then are introduced to another character while still fleshing out the character that we just got. It keeps the story feeling fresh and new while still continuing what it just had built. It's rewarding and endearing, and the style of development is very appealing to me. And personally, while I ordinarily prefer city settings as a whole, there's something about Yasuo Inaba that really stuck out to me. over the course of P4. The town genuinely became an iconic location for me, and had this air of personality and charm to it that the locations from the other games just didn't have for me. Moving on to Persona 5 Royal, and this is easily the game that feels the most unique out of the others. From camera angles to cinematography, to visuals, to the personality just dripping from every pore of this game, one of P5's most recognizable and unique aspects is honestly just the aesthetic. From the options menu to just traversing the world, to the UI, to the music, every part just emanates personality that draws you in and fully immerses you, or at least it did for me. And especially with Royal, they added so many little events you can do in the overworld that I just find flesh it out even more. Like, I love the dots minigame. How I'm able to power up my one more attacks. That's great. It's a great bit of synergy there, while also fleshing out my affection with each of these characters so I can do their confidants even quicker. And this may be a controversial opinion, but personally, while I prefer P4's cast the most, I think P5 has the best story. There's a couple of hiccups where I felt it dragged a bit, like Okumura, but on the whole, I think P5 still has my favorite overall narrative. Also, with Royal, you get the third semester, a new chunk of the game that takes place after the majority of the events of the base game. And it's one of my favorite chunks of any game ever. It's written immaculately, with my favorite antagonist in the entire series. Hell, he's one of my favorite antagonists ever. It also has some of my favorite music, I believe. Throw Your Mask Away, oh my god, it's so good. A really fun dungeon and incredible characters. Like the story that is told within the third semester on top of the fun as hell gameplay of Endgame P5, just as his perfect storm that elevates the entirety of the game. It doesn't feel unnecessary, it feels pivotal, it feels like everything was building up to this one moment, where all the themes and motifs of the game up to this point are just coming to a head. It's as close to narrative perfection as you can get. It's of such a high quality that even if I didn't like the rest of P5's narrative, I'd probably still say P5 is my favorite story, just for the third semester. That is how highly I rate that section of the game. And I do wish we could use the party members for the third semester way earlier. I get the story reasons for doing so, but at least let me use them from the start in New Game Plus or something, when we don't have to worry about being story accurate and just can have fun with it. But I digress. P5 Royal also probably has my favorite combat in the series, with the one more system adding a nice sense of depth and satisfaction, while the social links or confidants in P5 provide actual palpable skills that you can utilize within the dungeons, and in the palaces you can unlock them, and they're just generally really helpful. They either help you in the dungeons, like I said, or make your time in the overworld just that much smoother. Like the Temperance Arcana at max level, giving you access to doing nighttime activities after you do a Mementos run, or you go into the palace that day. It gives you access to the overworld at nighttime when you ordinarily can't. It's such a satisfying max rank level, as are most of them. And being rewarded for the social links or confidants is something that I genuinely do miss when I go back to P4 and P3. But overall, each Persona game, while feeling like Persona, offers something different to one another, and it will really depend upon what you are looking for and want to get out of these games. Some people will just value the characters and mystery in P4, or the atmosphere of P3, or the narrative and gameplay of P5, or any combination. Heck, you may play all three of these games and just come away with the idea that P3 just has your favorite gameplay loop. And that's the strength of the series, where these games are all generally of such high quality, and it's just a toss-up as to what any individual may prefer. And while P3 doesn't have one solid definitive edition like 4 or 5 does with Golden or Royal, it has Fez and Portable, which each offer different experiences, but honestly I find both of them fun. And while they offer different styles of the experience of P3, they each have their own strengths and weaknesses, which I covered in another video that I'll leave in a link to in the description down below. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. Leave a like and subscribe if you like the video and you want to see more content. I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content. And to be notified for when I upload in the future, please hit the bell icon to be notified for when I upload in the future. Leave a comment down below with your favorite Persona game and why. Is it the gameplay? Is it the story? Do you like P3? Do you like P4? Do you like P5? Or do you prefer P1 and P2? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know why. I would love to hear your opinions. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.